So I've been releasing some of these videos, which are Q&A videos on a course that I co-delivered with Sh Akram Nadwi, and the main course, the bulk of the course, dealt with jinn possessions, demonic possessions being a myth, and that's going to be released tomorrow, inshallah. So look out for that. The second part of the course dealt with the concept of magic, not this kind of hocus pocus that unfortunately many Muslims believe in. So that is right. So that is the second part that will be released soon, inshallah. And then we had a Q&A that followed up with several kind of controversial questions which are myths as well. So the first one we released that upset a lot of people was this thing of, are you allowed to follow opinions which create ease in Islam? And Sh Akram Nadwi, he clearly made that very clear, that not only are you allowed to do it, but you ought to do it. You ought to create ease for other Muslims. This upset a lot of people. The second question was about, is there an obligation to have a caliphate in Islam? That Sheikh Akram Nadwi and myself, we clearly responded that there is no obligation in Islam to have a caliphate system or an empire system, that these things were just contingencies. The main thing was Muslims connect with their Lord. Yes, when they live together as a society, society has rules, and Islam had kind of given certain rules, but it was never out and about to try to establish empire. And in fact, empire has a lot of harms because it always takes religion down the road of institutionalization. Now, so we clarified that. That obviously upset certain people, especially groups like Hizb ut-Tahrir, incredibly upset them. And they were really more so upset that, I mean, they knew that I was going to say that anyway to that question, but they were really upset that Sheikh Akram Nadwi, and may Allah preserve him and bless him, had also said that. Right now, then there was a third question, that that certain things like, because if there is no obligation for this ideal utopian Islamic state, there are certain laws in Islam which are seen as, unfortunately, they clash with modern day ethics. Would Islam, does Islam have the capacity to change its laws with time? Does it have this inbuilt mechanism? And I responded by saying that Islam actually mandates, it actually demands that its laws reflect the ethics and morals of the age. And part of this expansion, which I demonstrated, I said in the clip, so those of you that haven't seen that clip, please do. It's only a 5-6 minute clip. I explain in that, and do like it, share it, get it out there. Alhamdulillah, we have had some incredibly positive feedback as well. It is important sometimes, because what manifests to a lot of people is the hate, because it's easier to spread hate. And I do get a lot of supportive private messages. I get loads, alhamdulillah, and people are always kind of encouraging me, and that kind of stuff is important, and especially it's good to put it out there as well. So it's good to, if people can leave positive kind of remarks, so just for other people, because knowledge is important, but common knowledge is just as important. So sometimes it's not only important to know something, but to know that people know that you know it is also important. So do kind of share and like. So I responded by, to give you, for those of you that haven't watched the video, in demonstrating that Islam was always meant to reflect the ethics of its age. You see, its ethics always varied between times and civilizations. So you have, Allah says that about each prophet, لِكُلٍّ جَعَلْنَا, that we placed for all of them that Allah placed for them a sharia wa minhajan, and a methodology that varies. So each and every prophet had something unique for them. I mean, some of them may have come in the same place, so they were just confirming each other. But generally, whenever they were part of a different generation, there was variations. Now, I mentioned that this could never have then been the objective. So Ibn Ashur in his tafsir has a whole section, lengthy paragraph, several paragraphs dedicated to saying that alcohol was always permitted before Islam. Now, I know some people may disagree with that, but he is a legend to me, and one of the greatest mufassir, the commentators on the Quran that has been. He has a tafsir, a commentary in 30 volumes, and was deemed the Shaykh al-Islam of the Malikiyah. Now, he has a lengthy section elaborating on how alcohol was always permitted prior to Islam. And he mentions that through biblical sources, we even see that there's a likelihood, he says, a strong likelihood that prophets of the past also drank. So he says that we can't say with certainty, but their traditions seem to demonstrate it. But what we do know is alcohol, wine, was not prohibited before. We know that certain foods, certain animals with certain hooves and things like this were prohibited. They were seen as immoral for the people of Israel, but they're moral for us. We have seen that certain laws for certain people were different. So how is morality changing according to God? Because God is constant. So this, you see, it doesn't make any sense to use the abrogating method response, because the abrogating response makes sense only if you're dealing with the same generation or the same civilization, to say, well, okay, they're getting ready and then we're going to change it when they reach this stage. But those people never got to change it at all. So Bani Israel, it always stayed haram for them. But a different people come and, hey, it's not haram for them. And a different people come and, hey, it's halal for them. And a different people. And so the point here is, this goes to show that laws were never the objective in Islam. Okay, they were never the objective. They were simply solutions to people's problems in line with their ethics of the age. And it's important to understand what we are. And this is God in general. This, in my understanding, this is what you could term the God of Abraham. But God, although I disagree with the way God is presented in the Old Testament, that is not my concept of God. This Yahweh that is presented, who is very kind of condoning of murder and genocide and all these kind of things. God, as I understand him, is the absolute in terms of compassion and mercy. That is God. So the picture that definitely the Old Testament has, and unfortunately some Muslims have as well, unfortunately many Muslims might have, is that of God in the Old Testament. They have a picture of this kind of mental image of Yahweh from the Old Testament. And that is not my understanding of God or Allah. Allah always tells us, the Prophet always reminded us, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, the most merciful, the most compassionate. This is God. Okay, and people might say, yes, but he has other names. But yes, but those names are at times used to kind of bring people into check, just so to kind of intimidate and threaten people, so as to prevent them from oppressing other human beings. So that's where that definition comes.